It was a Tuesday night, around 11:30. I had just gotten in bed when the call went out. It was not dispatched with entrapment. The additional they gave the chief officers was that there was a possibility that the homeowner was home because there was a car in the driveway and they just weren't sure.
The three of us were on the first in engine. I was riding in the back seat, in a position where our roles are to take the hose line into the building or search and force the building, stores, or access.
I noticed there wasn't a lot of fire. It was mostly just smoke and haze over the area, which was a little different than what we were used to for, working long fire, stuff like that.
Yeah, I arrived after Chief Dotson, and I asked him, what do you need? And he goes, I think there's entrapment, so you're going in with the engine crew. We were at the door, and Rich took the door out and got us entry. Made entry into the house. There was smoke from floor to ceiling, and as I was going in, there was zero visibility. And as I got maybe 10 feet in the house, I heard water running, and I wasn't sure what that was. Made our way in and found out that it was a fire in the kitchen, and the water I heard was a broken water pipe from the fire that was in the ceiling in the kitchen, fortunately keeping it in check. And then I think Ryan and Rich were upstairs, and I went up to them with the camera and got to them and did a little bit of talking. And then Denny had called out over the radio. I don't remember what he said. And so I left the camera with Rich and Ryan and went backstairs and found Denny again. There was 2 doors, and one on the left he took, and then I took another door and I opened it. I tried to open it. It only opened about 3 or 4 inches, and I put my hand in and I felt something, and I was able to push the door a little bit more. And when I looked in, then unfortunately I saw the first thing I felt was the dog, and then the gentleman laying there. So then I radioed out that we had a victim, and started the process. And it was hard though, because it ended up being the bathroom, and you couldn't get into the bathroom because the dog and the gentleman were laying there, and you couldn't get the door open more than about 6 inches.
I forced the door, pulling it off its hinges. We removed that door, and then at that point we found the dog and the homeowner at that time.
First out, like we said, was the dog that Captain Takacs pulled out, that took that outside, transferred care of the dog over to PD and another firefighter. Went back inside. They had the victim about a quarter of the way through the living room, jumped in to give a hand to finish extricating the victim.
Yeah, due to the smoke conditions, it was really difficult to see in there and where we were.
Right, trying to just get him out the way we came in.
Yeah.
It all happened really quick.
It did.
Yeah, it was pretty tight. I remember the hallway pretty narrow and a 90-degree turn at the bathroom there.
Looking back at the times from on scene, from when we were listed on scene, to victim extrication, I believe it was only like 3.5 to 4 minutes or something like that. It
Wow.
wasn't very long at all. From the firefighter side, we did everything we were supposed to. Everything went right on our side. It's just the outcome is not what we hoped for at all.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly the water that we did here, when the smoke cleared while I was extinguishing that fire in the ceiling, all the cabinets were gone.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an intense amount of fire that was there, that was hot enough to actually melt that copper piping and the sweated fittings.
I remember going through after the fact to look around, and the doorbell by the front door, which was across the house from the kitchen, the plastic on it was actually melted from the heat.
The hallway we were in had a smoke detector hanging.
Yep.
Same thing, high heat, melted plastic. It's kind of interesting to see see that how hot it got from this.
Very much so.
I definitely felt it when I was upstairs.
I think it was definitely warmer upstairs than on the first floor.
I mean, the thermal imaging camera was essentially useless because there was so much heat.
Yeah.
You couldn't differentiate anything. So it was definitely going blind.
This is the first one in my 25-year career that had to pull somebody out, and it could have waited another 25 years.
Yeah,
It's one of those
yeah.
things that I'm glad it took a long time, and it was okay if it would never happen. You never want to have that outcome.
Most of the times
Situations.
it's, like they said, it's the homeowners or the residents calling in. This was actually called in by a neighbor that was outside. I believe he said he was smoking a cigarette or something at that time before going to bed. Noticed a little bit of smoke in the area. Looked over, saw the house that it was coming from, and had called it in. After the fact, we found out, during the investigation, that fire was actually probably burning for a couple hours. So that fire was actually burning for quite some time before we even got called. It had quite the head start on us.
Yeah. Our hands were tied with what we had. There's nothing that, I could have done differently, or you could have done differently, or you guys could have done differently to have made it not a fatal fire.
Yeah.